With more for your ears only, I'm Melissa Exelberth.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. If you want innovation, then you need interaction. That was John Sullivan, professor of management at San Francisco State University, on the controversial order by new Yahoo chief executive Marissa Mayer abolishing the struggling high-tech firm's work-at-home policy, much to the annoyance of other working mothers and fathers in the company and beyond. Now this.
This is the story of a man fighting to get back his woman, who's been subjected to unthinkable violence, or as Chris Brown and Rihanna call it, a date movie. That's as bad as it gets if it makes you feel better. It's really not as bad as it gets.
And it doesn't matter how you get knocked down in life, because that's going to happen. All that matters is that you got to get up.
There were mixed reviews for Wise Guy Oscar host Seth MacFarlane last weekend in the theater and around the world. But even those who favored films other than Argo for Best Picture had to appreciate the winning acceptance speech of producer-star Ben Affleck, not even nominated for his direction, and Affleck's extraordinary roller coaster career, from early fame to the butt of jokes to full-service filmmaker.
And that was only one of several special storylines at Oscars 2013. There was the youngest ever nominee for Best Leading Lady, 9-year-old Quvenzhané Wallis from Beasts of the Southern Wild, and Daniel Day-Lewis, whose role as Abraham Lincoln made him the first ever winner of 3 Best Actor awards, and the first ever First Lady to announce Best Picture, or any picture. To review all of that and some new films as well, for your ears only, we're joined again by Boston Globe critic Ty Burr. His new book is Gods Like Us, on movie Stardom and modern fame, from Pantheon. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks, David. Hi, Melissa. Nice to be here.
So how many stars for the Oscar show as a show?
Oh, as a show, I would probably, out of 4, I'd probably say 2.5. It's such a difficult beast to pull off, and I thought that they made some missteps. I thought they backloaded too many of the major awards to the last half hour. I thought that the opening comedy segment went on for 20 minutes, twice as long as it needed to. I don't mind Seth MacFarlane. He's in an impossible situation. Every year they try and get somebody who has to push the envelope and make it, relevant to younger viewers, but at the same time maintaining respect for, the older Academy voters and viewers. And it's an impossible task. You can't do it.
Do you think Argo overtook early favorite Lincoln, at least in part because Affleck had been snubbed by not getting a nomination as director?
I don't think it was a snub. I think part of the thing going on here is that you've got up to 10 Best Picture nominations. This year we had 9, and you've only got 5 Best Director possibilities, so somebody's going to get skunked. And I think Zero Dark 30 actually did get snubbed. I think that the conversation had people sort of keeping away from it. I think actually Affleck just fell afoul of the numbers. I bet if you look at the actual tallies, he probably got pretty close, but they also wanted to bring in Michael Haneke and the kid who made Beasts of the Southern Wild. And I really don't think it was an active snub. But that said, I do think it was perceived as one, and it created even more sympathy for Affleck, because the narrative this year is that he's back as a respected craftsman. He's licked his wounds and learned his the error of his ways. He's no longer a preening tabloid star, and so we're glad to have him back. And there was a sense that we wanted to acknowledge that, as well as the fact that it's Argo's it's a very well made movie that is a crowd pleaser as well, and that's smart.
Was the Affleck story really one of his evolution, or more the way our culture tends to view so many stars it creates? First up, then down, then back again.
In other words, was he responsible for his bad press? I don't know. I don't know the guy. None of us know the guy. But that's the narratives of these stars sort of take their own life in the public culture.
Affleck aside, talk about the change from studio-crafted personality stars like Bette Davis and Clark Gable to more naturalistic actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Dustin Hoffman, Meryl Streep. How much was Hollywood trying to please a changing, more individualistic culture, and how much helping to create that new culture?
Oh, I think, Hollywood is always 1 or 2 steps behind the public in what the audiences want in the faces they see on the big screen. You remember in the very, very early days, they didn't publicize stars at all. They didn't build them. It took like 10 years of the film industry, 15 years before they realized that people wanted to know who the actors were. And, of course, you had the great factory years in the 30s and 40s and 50s. But then in the 60s, when sort of more realistic actors started coming in, like Dustin Hoffman, like Jack Nicholson, they, like Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper and Easy Rider, they didn't know how to respond to those. And, of course, then the culture turns even more, and in the 80s we wanted glamour back, and we get people like Tom Cruise and actresses like Kathleen Turner, more sort of traditional movie icons. And today it's even the cat's even more out of the bag. Because of the internet, we sort of have control over how we read and talk about famous people and stars. And if they make a misstep, we can play with the photographic evidence, the movie evidence, the sound evidence on the internet and pass it around. And they exist more at our sufferance than ever before.
I want to get to at least one post-Oscar film. The best that you seem to have found recently, you gave 3 stars to Stoker. Any connection with Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula?
No, in name only. No, this is that. We're still in the early part of the year, and a lot of the good films aren't coming out. January and February tend to be a wasteland of good movies. So you take what you can get. And this is a creepy little horror tale by a Korean director named Park Chan-wook, who's well known to sort of fans of cult foreign films for some movies he did in the previous decade, Old Boy, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. And he's doing a Hollywood film. It's his first Hollywood film, and he's got Mia Wasikowska looking like something out of a Charles Addams cartoon as a young girl whose uncle comes to stay, played by Matthew Good, and uncle is up to no good. And it is, Park reminds me of early Roman Polanski. And a little bit of Hitchcock as well, excuse me. He's a beautiful stylist. His movies are gorgeous to look at. Every shot is thought out, controlled. Every moment is there on purpose and has weight. And the story itself is genuinely creepy and unsettling, again, in the way of early Roman Polanski, until at the last half hour, then he realizes he's making a Hollywood movie and he has to explain everything. And it goes south a little bit, but not fatally.
Boston Globe critic Ty Burr. His new book is Gods Like Us on movie stardom and modern fame from Pantheon.
And a quote from the news, an awesome kid. That was former NBA basketball star Dennis Rodman on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un after a 4-day visit, despite tensions over recent nuclear and missile tests.
Next, songs of love, loss, yearning, and get lost for your ears only.